Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Vivian Reed. Now, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to like and say nice things. You know I don't like nasty things. Say nice things. Now, you know this channel is devoted to in and everything show business, and we're trying to help you young people coming into the business and give you a little bit of guidance. We have a gentleman today who wears several hats, that of a performer, producer, writer, and director. And there's probably a few other hats that he wears, but we'll talk about that. His name is Richard J. Alexander. How you doing, Richard?
I'm doing good. I'm thrilled to be here. Look at your beautiful self. We've talked a lot to each other this week, so it's just a nice coincidence.
Oh, yeah. I'm so happy to have you here because I definitely want to have conversations with people who know what they're doing, who've been out there, and who can help these young people who are coming into show business. And perhaps there are people already in show business and maybe they need help as well. So, Richard, let's just jump into it. To you, in this business, what is a professional performer?
Oh my God, let me see. Did I just get hit by a car? Well, I think the thing that you have to have, first of all, to be called a professional is that somebody else has to bless that idea and employ you. Once you're employed for the very first time, you're supposedly a professional. You're supposedly a union member. You're supposedly a contributor. You supposedly have some sort of training or background or whatever that got you here. But as you know, that runs the gamut of all kinds of things. The thing is that, back when we started, meaning you and me, and even before us, and then what it's become now, they're very, very, very different things. And so, but professionalism is something that you sort of make your own morals, ethics, and scruples. You watch other people's behavior. Usually, if you're well trained, if you're a good person, if you've been a good student, you're an amalgam of all the good things that you got. So even when I teach, I don't know how you feel, but and I don't teach a lot. I mostly lecture or master class. I always say, take what you can use that I give you and throw the rest out with the garbage. Do you know what I mean? Because Vivian's going to give you this, and this one's going to give you that, and I'm going to give you this, and you'll become an amalgam. You'll know what works for you. There is no Bible, right? But, the behavioral part of professionalism, people just think they can snap, and I find personally that in life today, people's fuses are very, very short, and people feel like we owe them something. And also just with all the added pressure of the world, people's fuses are short, the political arena we're in right now, and people just snap. And so they think it's their truth to snap out, and they don't know how to put themselves in check. And so, that's not professional. You know what I'm saying? But, always honoring, no two assignments are the same. You know that when you get a job in one show or another show or a film or television, you have to honor the assignment, who hired you. What was the deal you made with that person? I don't mean the fiscal deal, but I mean, what is expected of you? What is the exchange going to be here? What kind of negotiating? Sometimes you get hired just because you're Vivian Reed and you're fabulous and you get no help. Do you know what I'm saying? And then you have to make something mediocre or fantastic because you're Vivian Reed and you don't get help from a director. So, I've learned to identify situations. I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, I think in a case like that, I'm finding, because this is devoted to young people or people, even if they're older, just coming into show business, I'm finding that much of the time inside of these colleges, they are not being armed with what they need for the basics of coming into the professional world. When they're my students, by the time they graduated, they were ready. Yeah. All they had to do was just gain experiences, but they were ready in terms of always be on time. Do not be late. And if you cannot be on time, be early, because under equity union rules, rehearsals start at 10 a.m. So you know that if rehearsal starts at 10 a.m., that means you should probably get there at about 9:45, and dancers should probably get there at 9:30.
Sure, warm up.
Why? Because you have to warm up. Yeah. So lateness It's just not
No, I'm in
tolerated
total
the
agreement
professional
with
world.
you.
Would you expound on that a bit?
Yes, listen, it's even bigger than that. Forget rehearsal at 10. It's half hour. It becomes your life. You got to sign in by 7:30 and give yourself prep. If you have more makeup, if your costume thing is more complicated, you better show up at 7. So you've got to know your own timing. Do you know what I mean? But in terms of being on time, and I work with a lot of artists, and you got orchestras waiting in studios and things like that. I hate it when people go, oh, the subways, or oh, the 10 or the 104 or whatever. Leave early. And when I do stuff, even here in Miami, I'll say leave early. We all know there's going to be traffic. We all know that. So I'm like you. I'd rather get there early, kill time, grab a coffee, something like that. And being punctual it's paramount. It's paramount because just overall in your career, you're going to be known for one thing. That's being there. That's always being there and delivering. Those are your two obligations. Show up and deliver. The rest of it is the dog ate my homework. And believe me, I've had to threaten people that were in my employment, during the Les Mis years or something. You got to remember, after you go through the main talent pool, you're now training kids that are coming out of colleges and stuff. Once you've used up everything, because you got 11 companies, all at once. So you go to Orlando, you take people out of Disney World. You go to Nashville, you take them out of Opryland. You go to, I went everywhere and found people, and found them at Sacramento Music Circus. And so, you have to teach them the ways of the world and do like a crash course in show business because they were plucked out of another world. Half of the kids wouldn't have come to New York if I didn't have the machinery behind me during those years to have them come to New York.
But also, I think what young people have to understand, anyone in show business, whether you're haven't reached professional level or not, or maybe you're not union yet, and maybe you are.
Right, just because they're union doesn't make them professional.
Doesn't make them professional.
That's right.
Under no circumstances, and this is what we need you, as the viewers watching, to understand that lateness and not being punctual will not be tolerated. If you do that too many times, you will get fired.
Yeah. Not only that, you won't be rehired. People, no matter how talented someone is, if the behavioral or the attendance or the problems are consistent, you go like this, you know what? I love her, but it's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
And the people, I have been in a position where that's been done. And I've done it myself where I just go, you know what? It's, the other thing is, there's a little thing called not cooked yet, where you see somebody's got it, but they're not quite there yet. And I go, you know what? Let somebody else take them first. And I'll see them again in a couple of years. But when you're hiring, you don't have time to educate and rehearse. Do you know what I'm saying?
Don't.
So that's why you're prepping them to come to me, and so that's the beauty of that exchange.
It is all about behavior. I'm going to tell you something, Richard, that I heard. And you tell me how you would have handled this.
Okay.
All right. This particular person, I'm not going to call any names, was putting on a concert. And so he handed out all the songs. And one of the cast members came up and said the next day, I really don't like these songs that you gave me. They're not really for me. Now, here's a list of the songs that I think are better suited. So why don't we go with these? Mm-hmm. When I heard that, I like, what? Tell me your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, there's no thoughts. You're absolutely right. Even just your read of the line is correct. It's absurd. If you're hired, like I just said, what were you hired to do? You're not there to do your thing unless that's been invited to the party. So, for example, if you're a concert performer and you have special guests and the guest is known for a big hit song on Broadway, of course you want to deliver that. But if that person is handing out the assignments of the songs, I'm doing an evening of Gershwin, for example, and you're getting, this song, you got to do what you were asked to do, And here's the thing. It's not even a realistic situation. That's how absurd it is.
No, you're absolutely right. It's not a realistic situation, but I don't want these young people thinking that just because you did that in college, you're going to carry that behavior over to the real world, because no one will ever accept you.
The real world will snap you back into shape.
Will snap you back into shape. You'll be finished before you even get started. So understand.
That's if you get another chance.
If you get another chance, listen to what we're saying, because these conversations that I'm doing with these qualified people, it's hardball. We're not sugarcoating anything. We're telling you what is.
Yeah. You know, I have a phrase, Vivian. I have a phrase that says you get one chance at entry. In other words, you've prepped, and you get one chance. If you blow that chance and it doesn't go, you're going to have a hard time, you know, shifting and pivoting because, and especially if it's a big chance, do you know what I mean? If it's not like dinner theater or something like that, if you're really walking the boards, and it's very interesting. But I always say that as they put your best foot forward, you know. Even if you don't agree, and I work with a number of stars, and I remember one in particular, went to an audition. She shall go nameless, but it was like, Richard, I did everything he asked, even though I didn't agree. But guess what? She got the job. So she just kept it to herself because she wanted the job. And that's what it takes sometimes. Then hopefully later you can have the dialogue or you can express your opinion or whatever. But it depends if that door opens up, because communicating is important. You know that. You want to work with a good director. A director wants to work with talent, but you're negotiating together all the time. People that think that they laid a performance on somebody, like, it's a negotiation. You do it together. I do a lot of concert work. You do it together. It's not like I'm there going, I figured this out on paper. This is what we're going to do. 1, 2, 3. It's moving all the time. It's got, it's got life. And so that's what I love about it the most. And you heard me say a couple of days ago, a lot of people say they love the process, but they're actually lying. They want to impress you so much that they go right to like showing off, or they want to nail it right away. And then where do you go? If you're at 10 already, there is no 11. Yes. And so you've got to really mine it so that it can be the best. The greatest performers, and this, never do the same thing twice. Of course, they stay within the framework of what was built, but they never do it. They change their phrasing, or maybe they backphrase a little, or, whatever. And hopefully the conductor's not upset and it works with the music. But, that's the great thing about performing. That turns me on. I hate landing and think you've got it. And I've worked with those kinds of people too, that like it the way they like it. And then I have to adjust, because that's what they're doing and they're a big star, so it's very interesting, but they earned their way to that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Nuisance power.
That's the thing. That's correct. You're absolutely right.
Nuisance power. When you've gained nuisance power, when you can sit down and maybe there's something in particular that you don't like, maybe a direction that that particular director has given you, and maybe you want to try something. It's all in how you speak to that person. You must always respect that person.
You're absolutely right.
I can have dialogue, and I have done that many times in the past with the directors. Like, I'll do something maybe the way they want it. I say, okay, that was good. Could you look at me do it this way and see what you think? And you give them that respect. And a lot of times, if they're honest, maybe they did prefer the way you did it, or your this new way. But it's all about respect, because I think probably most directors don't mind having dialogue with their actors if their actors are feeling a certain way. But see, here's the thing: if you coming in late, you got an attitude, you're not learning your lines, you think that when you go home after 6 o'clock, that's me time, when there is no me time. He will never, or she will never, give you time to even want to listen to you, because you haven't demonstrated your quote unquote.
It also depends how much time there is. So there's a lot of different work situations, like summer stock, when you don't have the clock in your favor and you're racing to an opening night, because then the next show's 2 weeks later. And that's the other thing. I mean, I worked with somebody once, I remember, and I would go, why don't you go to the right? Can I try to the left first? But this was every single day. Now, she was a genius. So, and I won't name her name either, but it all worked out. But it was like, I went to work every day going, okay, Richard, just be ready for another day of this, because you wanted to examine the possibilities. But we had like a 2-week window. And so I didn't want to be mean. And you're right, respect. So I tried to be as respectful as possible. And I know I can get into the dress. I know. I said, we don't have time for a change. Let me try it, Richard. Let me try. Okay, fine, try. Well, she made the change. So she knew more than I did. And I was wrong. But, I gave her the respect. And so I'm so happy you said that, because you're right.
That's respect both ways. The actor must respect.
No, I wasn't getting any respect. Trust me, I was not getting any respect.
She wasn't respecting you at all?
No, of course. I'm making a joke, but it wasn't. Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so the takeaway from this little, the things that we have been talking about is be on time.
Yes.
Be respectful of the director, the musical director, all key people. Be respectful and know your job. Go home, do your homework. Yeah. Okay.
I just want to say one thing while you're talking like Vivian. Like, did you see Smash at all when it was on TV?
Oh, did I see Smash every episode?
So anyway, like I had tons of problems with that show, right? And I love Steven Spielberg and I love the people that were involved with it, but that was not what we do. And I used to go crazy every week. And then finally New York Magazine started clocking all the unrealities. Like every time there was a problem, the stage manager, poor Ann Harada, the most beleaguered stage manager in Broadway history, it's like this, all right, let's take a 10. Like what's with all these 10s? But the biggest thing that happened is when the girl was playing Marilyn, he goes, honey, the director's like this, why don't you try it there in the back? She's on a pink contract. That would never happen. Nobody would walk out of a Broadway theater with their costume on.
No.
Never. You would be stopped at the door by the doorman. You'd never get out. So all these things were unreal. These things were not the real Broadway that was going on, or what you were asked to do in an audition, turning into full production numbers. So I had a lot of problems with that series, and a lot of people love the songs, and I respect all of that. But, just the reality that was nothing to do with putting on a Broadway show at all.
Yes, but I did love it. But you're absolutely right. There were just certain things that are just not.
No, it was certain tons of stuff. My favorite thing is calling places for the finale. It's like everybody knows the finale is coming. Or calling places for curtain call. Nobody calls places for that. You're already running down the stairs from your dressing room.
All right, this is my biggie.
Okay,
let's get to performance. Richard. Richard. All of these young kids, not all of them, but I would say 90% of them, and it's been going on for years, are performing, focusing on a spot in front of them, and that's how they do their whole song. They stand there, barely moving their arms. And what do you do in a case like that?
Well, I mean, hopefully you can direct them out of it if they're not like overtrained to do that. But I think that comes from, Vivian, correct me if I'm wrong, like who did you grow up admiring? Like just thinking, oh my God, they're so good. They're such a big star. Who were some of your favorites?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Don't forget, I was in classical music, so I didn't really get into musicals until I was in, say, my mid.
But even if you loved Leontine Price.
I loved Leontine Price, Maria Callas.
Of course, Maria Callas, as theatrical as it gets.
Roberta Peters. But here's the thing for me. My students have to break away from that. I give them 6 or 7 weeks, and I help them to break away from that and to get in touch with their lyrics. I said, you must become one with your lyrics because you want to paint layers for that audience.
Right.
The people
but my point is, who inspires them?
Well,
they've been looking at videos. They've been looking at, No,
that's not what I heard. And I've asked this a gazillion times. It's not about who they've been looking at. It's who's been talking to them. Most of my students and people who were not my students, because I ask this question quite often, where did you get that from? Who told you to stand there and perform like that? Their teachers in high school.
Oh,
that's been the answer that's been given to me. No one ever said, well, I looked at a star and they were doing this. No one has ever said that to me. They said that they were instructed to do that by teachers in high school, the theater department. And also there are young people giving workshops and telling them to do it because probably they themselves do it. So I tell my students, if you want to, take a workshop, take it from somebody who's at least 45 and make sure they're a great performer. And you'll be able to tell. And I usually send my students videos of Norm Lewis and Patti LuPone and people like this and Jeremy Jordan, these people who are great performers, so they can see Audra McDonald, see what they're doing with their eyes. They're not doing this in singing. They're just not doing Bernadette Peters. They're not doing this. So that is a big pet peeve with me. And the reason why I stay on that is because by the time you get your equity card, if you're so blessed to get an equity card, and you take an audition, the director and the musical director sort of figured that you kind of know what you're doing at that point, even though you may be young and there's still room for growth. But if they're seeing you just stand there and doing nothing,
right,
staring, there's a possibility that they think, you know what, this is going to be too much work.
That's what I call not cooked yet. Yeah. But that's interesting too, because auditions, people always ask, where do I put my eyes? When you're dealing with something, and they've got to figure it out. They got to figure out from the room, whether you're doing a scene, whether you're doing a song. And to your point about the Norms and the Patti LuPones and the Bernadettes and stuff, one of the other things I find fascinating is when I've worked with them in concert, and we've filmed the concerts like for PBS or something. Mm-hmm. Bernadette is a great case in point. We filmed in London at Royal Festival Hall, and she was singing Not a Day Goes By. You'll appreciate this. So the big break comes and it's all horns. Da, 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 da. And the cameras go to, one of 5 cameras goes to the sheet music and the horns, because it's a big horn section. But Bernadette has not checked out. Bernadette is doing something like this, and her nose is running. The singer didn't check out. You know what I mean? The singer's filling that music with her
yes.
soul. So I watched the first cut and I said, what? Why is this camera on the horns? Where's the cut from camera 3? Put that in there. And I'll never forget. And Stephen Sondheim called me at home when it aired. He really, really did. And he goes, my God, Richard, that camera was so close. I felt like I was invading her privacy. And it was really, really, really beautiful. But just, and this is the other thing, from a directing standpoint, just because it's a musical break does not, the actor's feeling all that. If you've worked the song from top to bottom, you are feeling everything, right?
Yes, honey. Let me expound on that. How many times have I told my students, don't ever break from that character?
That's right.
One of my students stole the show with Bloody Mary in South Pacific. And I said, even when you're sitting down waiting for your entrance again, you are in the moment because people are looking at you. And see, to me, the joy, what you get when you don't stare, when you don't focus, as the teachers like to say, focus, the joy that you get when you connect with your lyrics and you tell that story. Trust me, most times when you go into an audition, you won't even be that nervous because you're so connected delivering that story. And that's the thing that keeps people riveted. And
the same thing goes for walking on and off the stage into the wings.
Yes.
So let's say I'm in the audience and I'm in audience right and I can see stage right, and somebody goes and I see their body language collapse as they get past that little curtain, but I can still see them and they're running off, and so I agree with you 1,000,000,000%. You
have to stay in that character until you clear that.
You are on the stairwell. You're at the stairwell.
Yeah, that's what I do. I go all the way, even when I know they can't see me, until I'm almost
in character until I hit the stairs. Yep.
That will help you tremendously. But just understand, and I will do a video on how to help you deal with your lyrics and how to break you from the staring thing. Because once you find it, I've asked my students, how do you feel now? They said, Vivian, it's freedom. I enjoy performing now. So it can happen. So here's a takeaway with this segment is that you have to be professional, never leave the character, stay in the moment. And let's talk about the audition process. When you come into the room to audition,
that's right, it's already started.
They are watching you from the minute that door opens.
That's correct.
They see your face.
Well, it's already started, so they're watching everything. My favorite thing is like when you have auditions in LA, they put their car keys on the piano, and it always blows my brains out. It's like, hello, and I'm like, oh my God. But yes, from the minute you walk in, you're walking the posture, you're looking at the clothes they put together. Sometimes you can tell that's their audition outfit, which I find tragic. Because that's what they do or who they are. Mm-hmm. And also, sometimes the kids are trained. I've had a few of these situations. You got to be ready with your music. Obviously, if it's a musical, you got to have your cut done. You can't be explaining all this time and wasting your time because we're at the table right? And you don't want to wait too long to begin. They don't have their shit together. But when they try to control the molecules in the room, because when you're auditioning for someone, there's a negotiation already going on, right? And you know if you want to play with somebody. So I'll give you a great example. During all those Les Mis years, a girl came in for Fontaine, right? And I didn't know her. And she comes in and I go, it's nice to meet you. You know, what are you going to sing for us today? She goes, well, I'm going to do I Dreamed a Dream. I go, we'll get to that. Show me who you are. What do you do? Like if your life depended on this audition today, what's your go-to money song? Always gets you the call back, even if it has nothing to do with depression and 19th century France. I Dreamed a Dream. I go, no, we'll get to I Dreamed a Dream. You know, in other words, she was just like, she was going to sing I Dreamed a Dream. She went to one of those places in New York where they go, you go in there, you control it. You don't take no for an answer. You own that audition.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And there are people that are trained like this. So finally, you know, we went through this like 3 or 4 times. She wouldn't do a song. She wanted to sing I Dreamed a Dream. I said, great, well, go ahead, sing I Dreamed a Dream. And I went, you know, F you, I never want to see this girl again, and pushed it over to the casting director.
And did she have a book? Did she have her book with her?
Yeah, she had her book with her,
and
but
yet
you know,
she wouldn't.
She had it open. No,
weird.
But she wasn't negotiating with me, so I don't want to play with her. Show me who you are, and let me decide if I want to play with you. You know what I'm saying?
So you didn't mind so you didn't mind the fact that she was singing I Dreamed a Dream. You just wanted to go in a different direction to see
I wanted her to start with something else. She was there to sing I Dreamed a Dream, but I wanted her to show me who she was, independent of preparing for Les Mis. Because listen, people used to come in dressed like the character and they couldn't even sing. You know what I mean? So in other words, they're trying to control the molecules. They're not negotiating with you. And so they're not listening. They came in there to do something. They're going to leave with that. And she left with it, and I would never work with her. And I said, don't ever bring her to me again. I couldn't. How do you want to be in rehearsal with that? I don't want to be in rehearsal with that.
Let me ask you something, because a lot of these young people are looking for obscure, just crazy material.
Terrible.
Because they're afraid.
Terrible.
If they go, and let's use I Dreamed a Dream. If they're afraid I don't want to go in and sing I Dreamed a Dream because I know every other girl, she will have come in and say, so I have to be different. Do you all care?
People will pick these obscure songs, like just obscure, like I know nobody sings this. I go, there's a reason nobody sings that. I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. I hate the tune and I don't understand one fucking word. But so the issue is, I'd rather hear a beautiful Something's Coming from West Side Story, because somebody said to me, well, everybody sings that. I go, not well. But it tells me.
Explain. Oh, yes, Richard, please explain that, because even my conductor, who has done a lot of Broadway shows, he has played a lot of auditions, and it was in the studio when a student was here, and she brought in some crazy song. I said, honey, what you gonna do with that? And she says, I thought this would be good for auditions. I said, no, it is not going to be good for auditions. Number one, it's not a good song for you to show you off in probably 16 bars, and that's all you got. You got to show them everything in 16 bars. And then Billie, she said, well, I didn't want to do anything that everybody else is doing. And so Billie was sitting there at the piano. So I said, Billie, do they care if 20 girls come in singing I Dreamed a Dream? He said, no.
Because it's got to be good. But if you sing a good Something's Coming, it shows me velocity, legato, around the corner, or whistling down the river. Come on, deliver. It shows the drive, the velocity, the lungs. It shows a lot of stuff. Okay. And that's what I need to know, because in 16 bars, I got to know what you can do, or is that all you do? And I'm going to be stuck with somebody. You know what I mean? Which is the summer stuck syndrome.
Here's the takeaway here.
Sing great songs and you'll never be out of business. Sing great songs,
and don't worry if everybody else is singing that song. What are you going to do with the song?
That's exactly right.
With your piece of music, you got 16 bars. Sometimes they give you a little more. In my case, I do the whole thing, but that's not your case. So whatever the 16 bars is, you have that clearly delineated. Here is my intro, and if you have a retard,
you got to be prepared.
That accompanist does not know how that goes, you mark that off in your music.
Right.
Go over to him in your very respectful way, and you say, okay, this is the tempo. Let him see your hand. He doesn't need 16 bars to see your tempo. One waving of the hand for one measure will do. Okay? And then you tell him there's a retard at the end, and that's it. And from the moment you leave him or her, you are in that character of that song. as you go.
But that's what they need to know. Can you do this? They don't want a boom box. I remember those days, but I love when somebody looks at the piano like a drum kit is supposed to come out of it because they've been singing with the karaoke track. So they're like this hitting the leg like it's not, oh, the piano player's stunned. No, the piano player's great. You don't know what the hell you're doing. And that's hilarious because they want to know you can follow an accompanist because you're going to have to follow this guy in the pit.
Yes.
You know, and so these are all the things that you exhibit in an audition. And so the preparedness that you started this conversation with and being professional, these are all the things that you're being judged on, by the way, very rapidly in a 5-minute moment. That's all you're going to get to prove that you are worthy of their attention, worthy of this job, and that you have been trained correctly and that you are a professional waiting to be picked into the workforce.
And also, don't get things so fixed in your mind that you can't change. Because let me tell you what theater is all about. You have to turn on a dime. If a director says, you know, that was pretty good, let me see you do it this way. They don't have all day for you to process.
Yeah.
You have to learn to turn on it. Don't take it personally because he's a director. He has a vision for this show and how he wants various moments of the show to go. So you must be able to turn on a dime and not get an attitude. Lord, Richard, this leads me to the next thing. Oh, Lord. Okay, Richard. Okay, let me get myself. Oh, I got to get some water for this one.
All right.
Richard, Lord, get some water. Get some water, honey. Get some water. Richard, okay. In my studio, my students get one cry, C-R-Y, they get one cry. And the cry could come about from me giving them constructive criticism. So what I do is I say, okay, go into.
You get one cry per semester or one cry per class?
No, one cry altogether, as long as they're with me. Okay. I said, go into the powder room, get yourself together. And when they come back, I said, sit down. I said, you will never cry in here again. And they're, and I said, and you know why? I said, because if your skin is that thin that you cannot take constructive criticism, take direction, you need to get out of this business now. I said, for as long as you're in show business, and in particularly theater, plays, movies, whatever, somebody's going to be giving you direction. So do you think a director has the time that every time he gives you something or says something to you to change this, that he's going to wait while you cry? I said, honey, you do that too many times and you're gone. They don't have time for that. I said, so you will never cry in here again. I am preparing you for what's out there. And that's why they only get one cry. One cry.
No, it makes sense. And the other thing is, you know, everybody's too sensitive now, this whole thing about being supportive and stuff like that. It's just like in show business. I'm not supportive of anything. If I go out, it better be good or I'm leaving. Right. Because if I start doing my laundry in my head and thinking about tomorrow, I'm not having a good time. And, you know, time is very valuable. So I don't go out to be supportive. I go out to be entertained. I go out to learn something. I go out to watch greatness. I'm not there to be supportive.
And your job, basically, once you set foot on any stage, I mean, even before I got my equity card and I was kind of still in classical music, I just love the idea of making people feel something, feel joy, feel whatever it is that I'm trying to do. So to me, your job when you are doing theater, plays, whatever, is to learn that material like you know your name, so that you can go and perform.
That's what really frees you. That is what frees you. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Because if you go home thinking, here we go, me time. Okay, let's define me time. 10 to 6, equity rules 10 to 6 until you get into 10 out of 12 tech rehearsal. All right. So you're finished at 6 and then you go home and you don't ever pick up that script again. Okay. Now here it is the next day, back at 10 a.m.
Yeah, you haven't grown. You haven't grown.
You haven't grown.
You're not any better today than yesterday.
What does that director, what does that choreographer, what does that musical director basically have to do? They got to wait for you to fumble, and it's like starting all over. They're not going to put up with that too many times. I'm not saying that you should not unwind when you go home. Definitely unwind, have your dinner, even look at TV. I'm all for that. But at some point, you have to pick up the script.
Yeah.
You have to pick up the song. You have to work on it.
Yeah.
That's the best part of the process. I get up in the middle of the night. Oh shit, what was those steps?
Yeah.
Damn it, I can't remember them steps. What was those? It's the joy. And the thing is, the other thing, don't think because it's what do you call the shows? The previews, that you can still just do anything you want on the stage because the big night hasn't arrived. See, I never mark.
Yeah.
Richard, I never mark because I want these vocal folds to know what I'm going to do to them.
Yeah.
I want, because they're muscles. It's just like a dancer.
Yeah.
They're
You're training them.
muscles. You're training them.
Yeah.
So you want to
It's like dancing a part. Your body has to break down to build those muscles for what it is you need to dance. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Richard, when you come to the point that you say, they got to go. They have got to, I cannot put up with this person not 1 second longer. What's the extreme? What have they done?
Well, that's a very interesting question. It depends at what stage that happens. I've had people open in a Broadway show and then release them because they're just not carrying the show. Wow. Where you have to call the agent, buy them out, put in the understudy.
Explain to them carrying the show. They may not understand that. Explain.
Like, for example, let's just say it's a piece of miscasting, right? Like somebody got a lead and, they opened the show and, got medium reviews and stuff like that. And you're putting the show in danger, of compromise and stuff like that. And you see the understudy go on and you go, oh my God, he's got to take it over. And you do the deed. Or if somebody doesn't live up to, if it's a road company, let's say, of something, and somebody is not growing at the rate that you hoped, you know what I mean? Because you can always carry along a little bit of extra, let people mature, grow. But if they don't arrive, the show can't handle it. And you just have to release them from their duties. And then, it's just cause. And so you can't just let somebody go. You have to write it up. You have to file it with the union. You have to explain why they're not performing their job. And it's all quite embarrassing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay, but why? Would this be something that you should have seen in audition, or?
It's not formulaic. It's cumulative. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, when you put a show together or whether you're in a show, it's like having a bunch of racehorses. Everybody has different tempos of how they prepare. So if somebody's doing really good, you can leave them alone for a couple of days while you deal with the slower horses and get everybody back on track, because you got to deliver the whole thing to the gate. Sometimes they just don't get to the gate, but you want to honor your commitment artistically and go, God. And it's a part of its vanity. The director's vanity or the producer's vanity going, I know they can do it. I know they can. And sometimes they just can't. They just don't have it in them. The horse just runs out of fuel. And sometimes it's sad. It's not always happy. And then sometimes just people, bad attitudes, this, that, whatever. It's more trouble than it seems. I've seen all kinds of situations. I've been around for 45 years. And, I've employed a lot of people. I've worked with a lot of people. I've been shoulder to shoulder and on opposite sides. And so no two stories are the same. But again, becoming an amalgam of what you eventually become, I know what I don't want to be. And so every time you see one of these bad things happen or a bad behavior or whatever, you log it somewhere up here so that it becomes part of your psyche. So you remember that and you go, I don't want to do that. I don't want to act out like that. I remember this. You know what I mean? So you bank those memories. But and then some people are just terrible and you just fire them, end of story.
Okay, before we leave that, what happens if you hire someone and you find out later, maybe the musical director tells you that there's an intonation problem, that they can't keep harmonies, they're going slightly off pitch?
Yeah.
And
I would sort of know that at the same time. My ear's pretty good, but yes. So now that's a very interesting question, because this is an era thing now, because now you can prove it, Vivian. So because now you have sound mixing boards and everybody's got their own mics, right? If I isolate that voice, and I've had this situation where somebody said to me, how do you know it's me? And I go, can you play the tape, please? Right? And that's the voice. And there's all the doggy. There's all the doggy notes off pitch. Now before there was, the microphones, you couldn't do something like that. You'd have to hunt because there were floor mics or fly mics or no mics, But now it's very easy to nail somebody. Do you know what I mean? Or in rehearsal, sometimes it's the training they've been put into. So I'm into all different kinds of warm-ups. Like that's why I like intervals, because sometimes, when you sing a show over and over and over and over, your notes can go dead because you've been singing the same song over and over. If you're not using your voice in other ways, doing other things or vocalizing or taking lessons or whatever. So intervals, like sheet music never scared me. It's the note you're jumping off of to the note you're getting to that is the phenomenon of what your actual range is. And we all know the top warms up the bottom and the bottom warms up the top. So, and I love music. I'm like you, I love all kinds of music and I love classical music too, but there's no excuse for bad singing. Like they shouldn't be in the room. But see, they fooled you. They fooled you in the 12 bars. And that's what happens in summer stock. When that's all you do and you're casting a season, what you see is what you get, but you didn't have the time to investigate it. That doesn't happen so much on Broadway, but yeah, there have been some doggy singers. The other thing that happened that was sort of tragic is during the AIDS era, when AIDS came on, people started taking AZT. It affected the vocal cords. And so,
I didn't know that.
Yes, so they didn't vibrate equally, and people would come and go, Richard, I can't do the show anymore, and stuff. And so that was just, that was sad. And I wouldn't write those people up. Do you know what I mean? Because it was beyond their, so that was tragic to watch good singers, this go away the gift, because I love everything that goes on in here. The miracle about voices is that there's so many different colors. The speaking voice has finite things, but an instrument is, unless you're Ian McKellen or one of the great Shakespearean actors who have all kinds of vocal colors, but the voice is an extraordinary event. I'm fascinated by voices. Like when Audra did Billie Holiday, Lady Day, and we had seen Lynette McGee, a whole, generation before when she did it. But I went backstage and I said to Audra, how do you do it? How do you make the sound and not hurt yourself, Mom? And I don't know how she did it, and had
whoever
full
told her
expression.
to do it, it was a brilliant move, because a lot of people said, what? When they found out she was going to be doing
that. Yeah.
Well, I think with Audra has a very specific sound coming from classical music, and she doesn't go all the way like I did. So she skates right in the middle, and so that sound could definitely not show up in the depiction of Billie Holiday. That would have been a disaster.
I was fascinated, weren't you, when you saw it?
I thought she did I
was fascinated. I just wanted to touch her throat and go like, how do you do that? There's an example of somebody that if anybody wants heroes and to look at a work ethic, do you know what I mean? And, when she got first out of Juilliard, I did Carousel with her. It was her first job on the stage up at Lincoln Center. And she played Carrie Pipperidge. And, to be honest, a lot of people in that show couldn't sing. So it's no miracle that she became a star. But, she was just something no one had ever seen.
And also, too, she was different from most African-American female singers, because most were belters, and then she came along with a totally different sound. But on Billie Holiday, what did you think of, what's her name? Andra Day.
I loved it because I was a huge fan. My whole life, I loved that Diana Ross movie because it was so glamorous. And, obviously I'm gay, and she was up against Liza, and, it was who's going to win? But I thought I thought that movie was great. Everything from the Michelle Legrand, everything. But when Andra Day did it, obviously we're in a different generation, so her boobs are out and this, that. But I thought it was like a hallucinogenic dream, and the whole thing, and the lynchings, and I was mesmerized. I thought it was a fever dream. I thought it was so good. And also the way they treated the music. The music got acidized. Like if you listen to the soundtrack on its own, it's not what you think you heard when you watch the movie. It's actually a tonality thrown onto the music, and it's quite extraordinary. And it is a fever dream. I loved it.
Okay, before we leave musicals, and I'm only going to touch on nightclubs just a bit, but before we leave musicals, do you think, if time permits, that it's a good thing because most of the times when people come in for auditions, especially if they can choose their own material, they're going to sing something that they've probably been singing for a long time. Do you think sometimes, just to see what a person's all about in terms of their musicality, that a song should be given to them that they've never sung before, and have them learn it and come in and see how they pull it off? You think that's
I
a good
think you
idea?
do that in a callback situation in terms of preparation. But in terms of the first part of your question, that's what I was aiming at in the lame is like, show me who you are. If you've been doing it in your nightclub act and you own it, bring me some joy, make me cry.
Yes.
I remember one girl out at ACT who works regularly now in New York, when I first met her, and I said, I want you to come back next week, and I want you to do two things. I want you to make me cry, and I want you to make me laugh with two different songs. She came in with Losing My Mind, and she came in with a trumpet and did Gotta Get a Gimmick. Wow. And I said, you're hired. A, she honored the assignment. B, she nailed the assignment. Yes. And she was smart enough to go figure it out. Sometimes, Vivian, the people aren't smart enough to figure it out. So that's where the training, which is what you're talking about, the preparation, they've got to learn to think, to pivot, to all these things, and to listen to the person, like I said, that is doing the asking, because sometimes they can't even hear it. Like they're so in their own mind and they're judging their audition and they're processing the whole thing that they're dizzy. They can't focus and deliver what it is they need to do to get the job.
You just brought up something else. Lord have mercy. Okay. Diction.
Yes.
It is almost non-existent with these singers today.
Yeah.
It is just disgusting.
Yeah, it's because of pop music, because they're pop influenced.
What do you all do when you're in a show with these young people?
You know what you do? You over elocute them. Even with somebody like Norm Lewis, who's very skillful.
His diction is good. His diction is really great. Yeah.
Yes, but the point is you get there, you over enunciate until it lands somewhere normal. So let's take an example like the song Sondheim Sooner or Later, which was in the movie Dick Tracy, which Madonna sang, and the words are sooner or later. It's a seduction, right? It's a delicious thing. Sooner or later, you're gonna be mine. And I hear people sing sooner or later, you're gonna be mine, ER instead of OR. Sooner or later, you're gonna be mine. Sooner or later. And I'm like, I'm going crazy. If you don't have respect for diction, get out of the room. Don't even sing for me.
Yeah, my students, I tell them, I said, listen, and it's the most difficult, I think, are the D's and the VE. You could say love, and you feel that you hit the love, but the audience, they don't hear the VE. They hear la or would. They hear, and you say would. You said it, but you, like you just said a minute ago, you have to overdo it. So by the time it reaches the audience ears, it's normal for them.
Right.
Would. I have a video on diction, how to diction, because we took diction at Juilliard. I had to take diction for a year. We took it for a year. So my diction couldn't be bad. In fact, when I started singing popular music and did records like that, I mean, they said, Vivian, you got to throw that diction. So I know how to turn it on and off. If I'm doing funk or R&B, then all that goes away. Right. But if I'm doing, you still can understand what I'm singing, of course.
Yeah. But no, I have your albums. That's a fact.
in theater, they have to hear, I loved you.
Yeah.
Not I loved you. I love you. Ain't no I love you.
If I loved you.
Oh, Lord, yes. That's beautiful.
That's right.
So, okay, to close this out, I want to close out with nightclubs.
Okay.
When you go see nightclub performers, when someone has really, really touched you, what have they done?
Well, it's a great question. So let me just focus my brain. So first of all, nightclubs, it's a very, we don't really have a lot of nightclubs. We have a couple of cabarets now, but back when we were younger, there were tons of these places, and you went after shows, and we didn't go home until 2:30, and you slept and you got up and you still went to class. And, so you could go see so many people and learn. You could go to Reno Sweeney, you could go to Brothers and Sisters, you go to Sweetwater's. It was a joy, but let's just use Melba Moore, our mutual friend, as an example. She was playing a little 99-seater in Hollywood, Florida. And she hit a nerve. I just couldn't stop sobbing at the end of Act 1. She was talking about her brother who has special needs, and she burst into He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother. The connection of the story and the song, and then her unique vocal abilities and information that just make you jealous when you see somebody like her. I sat there and I was shaking at the end of Act One. And I turned to the critic who was sitting next to me and I said, I'm bringing her back to Broadway. Like, and I went and knocked on her door. Like, I was rattled to my nerves because when a truth happens like that, and that's the thing, it's truth. Everybody, we all know how to entertain. We all know how to make jokes. We all know show business. But when you connect and you show your truth, it is bone chilling. And then if people don't like your truth, fuck them. You know, who's got time for that? But truth is, you just cannot beat it, the connector. What I hate is things like, you know, this is one of my favorite songs. I hope it's one of yours too.
Oh,
really? Yeah, I'm going to throw something now. Yeah, I know.
That's what I was going to say. That was going to be my next thing. Or this next song, it goes something like this. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
this next song goes something. No, it's all about the
and don't tell me what to feel before you sing the song, and try not to say the title.
Yeah, I don't say the title.
But what happens? It happened that night with Melba. It's happened a number of times. Polly Bergen, when I saw Mary Claire Heron do her Doris Day show, when people strike pay dirt and you just can't even move. I live for that. And that's what I miss most during this period of time, is sitting and watching people do what they do. I love music so much. Some people, like, a song can change my whole day. It can change my whole mood. And some people don't feel music, and I feel sad for them.
You know, it's funny when someone tells me after a show, you made me laugh, you made me cry, you made me think. I think it is incumbent upon any performer who sets foot on cabaret stage, sit down with your piece of music. And also, you want to make it fresh. You don't want to do it exactly like everybody else has done it. Put some thought.
Why are you singing it?
I mean, I'm known for my arrangements. Put some thought into it.
Yeah. Well, you have unique talents also. That's why you're you. But they're very, you know, you can count the unique people almost like on two hands. And also, they're dwindling. There aren't so many unique people these days. There's a lot of people working, but I don't even know who half of them are. Do you?
No, but also too, Richard, I don't like rigid shows. I don't like where you have worked on this show to memorize this show to the point of death, and that's how it's coming off. Bob Cuccioli said to me after I debuted the Lena Horne show, he said, Vivian, how do you do that? How do you make your audience feel so comfortable like they're in your living room? I said, because I don't memorize every word. I am scripted. All my shows are scripted that I create. I said, but I do not sit down and memorize every word, because the danger in that, and I've seen it happen, and probably you have too, is that if they forget one word, if they have memorized that to the point of death, you forget one
panic.
word.
Yeah.
There's pregnant pauses. All during the show when you do that. Of course, in theater, you have to, but in nightclub, you want to make it as comfortable for the audience. And yes, you have to have a gist. You have to know the gist of what you're singing, the meaning of what you're singing, and what's going to set up that song. You have to do that. So there is clearly a difference. In theater, unless it's Five Guys Named Mo or Smokey Joe's Cafe, you do not break that fourth wall. You just don't do it. But in nightclub, you tear that wall down because you want to talk to them. You want to look at them from time to time when you're singing. So that is the difference. You know, anything else you want to say?
No, this has been, I'm going to tell you something for anybody who's watching when they watch this. It's for me, this afternoon has been a master class with you. I'm mesmerized. I want to see the Lena Horne show. I want to, you know, I'm a big fan, so I'm very flattered to be here.
Well, thank you. And I wanted you here because you've worn several hats and you've worn them each very, very well. Tell our viewers some of the people that you've worked with.
Well, I started my career on the stage. You know, I was a Broadway guy, and then I danced in a couple of movies like All That Jazz and Saturday Night Fever, which led to a lot of commercials. So that was good news. But once I started producing and directing after Amadeus and Les Mis and Phantom and Saigon, after I did Bernadette Peters at Carnegie Hall, that's when I guess I became the diva whisperer, and they all sort of everybody came running. So I've had the honor and pleasure of working with everybody from, you know, Lea Salonga, Stokes, Barbra Streisand, Bette Midler, Ricky Martin, Bernadette Peters, Kristin Chenoweth. I mean, just about everybody. So it's
and the key ingredient is that all of these performers are great performers.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. I work, that's a very good point. This is a great closer, is that I work with actors who sing.
Yes.
Vivian. Do you know what I mean? They all have information. Do you know what I'm saying? And they all know how to turn a lyric. They all know how to
Yes.
tell a story, and it's powerful. I have been offered acts that are track acts, and I go, I can't do anything for you. I work with people with gifts, with velocity, with lung power, And I asked Barbara once. I said, Barbara, what does it feel like to hold a note like that long? I go, why do you hold it that long? She goes, I don't know, just I like it. That feels good. There's no rhyme or reason. It's not a trick or anything like that. Like that's how long she wants to hold the note.
But also, too,
And
she has a tremendous gift. I mean,
yeah, it's unbelievable.
she's
The
a
lung
gifted
powers.
singer. She has always been one of my favorite singers because
But the way she dissects a song, the way we look at songs, it's amazing. And it's very much what you're talking about. All of these things, it's encompassing.
All of these things.
All of
It's
them.
so all encompassing. I cannot thank you enough. I mean,
It's my pleasure.
And I hope that you young people watching or anyone watching that you have received what we've tried to give you and that you will take and run with it because that's
it sounds like collectively with all the different people that you're talking to, they're going to get a lot of good messaging. So that's very exciting.
So anyway, thank you. Thank you, number one, Richard J. Alexander, and thank you, viewers, for checking out this video. And don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to like. I'll see you the next time. Wave, Richard.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.